Welcome. Is Capt Ron here with Dieter Staudinger. We're back yet again, for another episode, this current week's episode of Fearless Flight Live, the show for people who are afraid to fly, or if you know somebody who's afraid to fly, or the third category is just people who think that we might know something about the airline industry, since we have a collective over 100 years of experience when you add up the people that are either me or help me. So anyway, welcome. We have what I think is a really great show again lined up for you. It's we're gonna do something I call the Captain's Log, and then we'll talk about the upcoming the next monthly, I got to get this straight, live monthly group coaching webinar on the 16th, and we'll highlight that a little bit, and then we'll always take your questions, and please, if you're watching us live or you're watching a replay, please leave us some remarks in there and or questions, and we'll do our best to get back to them. So thanks for showing up, and with that, anything hot on your agenda, Dieter?
Yeah, I have a couple of shout outs. One is to Angie Lewis and the other one to Sandra Holgan. I saw in the Birds of a Feather that both of them threw their knapsack over the wall, so to speak, and purchased tickets for upcoming flights. And that's super, super exciting. Because, you know, we were just talking in the pre-show warm-up about staying current and what it takes, you know, to stay current, especially if you don't fly all the time. And we were just talking about Sharon in our Birds of a Feather group, really heart-wrenching post that you know, she had to take the train for 2.5 days to get to where she needed to go, and then of course come back as well. And yeah, all I can tell you is that even if you don't believe that you can overcome it, stick with it anyways, because we have really accumulated a great number of people who were in that exact same place. There's no way that I can believe that I can overcome this, and now they are fearless flyers and frequent contributors to us. So I just wanted to mention that.
Yeah, I want to jump on that too, Dieter. I can't tell you the number. You're going to hear a firsthand story tonight as well, but I can't tell you the number of people who comment on the support that they feel from all of you out there, and that's not us, that's you guys sticking together and supporting each other through thick and thin. And it just goes back to the first time I ever met with a group of fearful flyers over 36 years ago, and they all remarked that they didn't believe how many other people suffered from the same things when they saw all the other people in the class that we were conducting that night. It's really, really it's powerful to see people react to other people when they find out that they're not alone. It unloads a lot of shame, a lot of guilt, and people feel like there's somebody out there that gets them, because oftentimes loved ones don't. They might love you, but they don't get it, you know, unless you've had this. So anyway, so let's move on into the show tonight. I'll share my screen, and again, we'd like to welcome you tonight to the show. We've got I think an interesting show. I've got the main thing I want to talk about is I had an interaction with somebody not too long ago. You know, I volunteer. You know, if you've ever done coaching with me, among other things, even a 15-minute coaching call, I volunteer my contact with you if you need to either call me or text me or whatever if you get in a bind somewhere. And I get wonderful feedback from people who do that. And I'm going to share a personal story tonight. Again, as I was just talking about, this is probably the greatest resource that Dieter and I have put together, and that is our private Facebook Birds of a Feather Facebook group. And if you're not a member, we encourage you to do it. And if you are a member, we encourage you to use it and leave comments and everything out there. So I'm going to move right into something that I'm going to call Captain Ron's log. This was just earlier in the month of October. I had somebody that I had talked with, one of our followers here, and she took me up on this. And so this is October 5th. At 6:06 in the morning, and that was my time. She was getting ready. Says, "Hello, I'm flying tomorrow from Pittsburgh to Fort Lauderdale. I've been doing my homework and watching your shows. Just waking up feeling worried and need a little encouragement. I felt so good after my last flight in February. I hope all is well with you and yours. If you have time, drop me a line. When we spoke in February, you told me I could reach out anytime. Thank you so much, Laura." Okay. And so I wrote back. I said, "Hi, Laura, how can I support you?" And she wrote back later on then. She said, "Not really sure. Just some words of encouragement. Me as a flight attendant and husband and pilot for Halloween." She sent a picture. I'm sorry, I didn't do that. Should have included that in there. "I can laugh about the fear when I don't have an upcoming flight. Sick and tired." And that's so often what happens. You get feeling good, and then as it gets closer, it's like an allergy. You start to get the allergy comes out, the symptoms. So I wrote her. I just said, "What are some of your triggers?" And she wrote back, "Generalized anxiety the day before," which was today. That was the day before when she was writing me. "Closed in turbulence sounds, but the harmonizer has helped a lot with that." And I wrote back. I said, "Hey, I'm pulling for you. Try imagining a child that was having thoughts similar to yours. What would you do? She's just feeling unsafe. And that happens when we have a part of our brain that is there to alert us to danger that's triggering us. It's no different from a smoke alarm that sends out a warning from burnt toast as opposed to a raging fire. It can't tell the difference. A child who feels safe or who feels unsafe needs to be comforted, not convinced that they need their feelings validated as okay, rather than there's nothing to worry about. Feelings are okay, and they feelings are okay, and they sometimes feel like they're all of who we are. But in reality, we're so much more than just our feelings. And so I recommended that she talk to that part of herself that's feeling unsafe. Tell your little child that it's okay to have those feelings, because you're going to be right with her and won't abandon her, and that the feelings will pass. And then on the following day, she wrote back. As you notice, it took me all day to come up with this. So fortunate she's got some patience as well. But she went flying the next day, and when she saw it, she says, "Thank you so much for these words of comfort." So fast forward to the next week, she wrote me back. She said, "I wanted to thank you again for your help on Friday. The anxiety was mostly beforehand. I was challenged with the rearranging of passengers to balance out a plane, a 747. I'm going to ask her if it was in fact a 747. And she said, I've done that on a tiny plane before, meaning she's had that experience where they move passengers from one part of the plane to the other. I finally got the nerve to ask to meet the pilot after seeing so many positive posts about it. The flight attendant simply said, no, you can't go in there. I told another flight attendant that I was afraid, and she said, of what? I wouldn't post. She didn't want to post this. Laura didn't want to post this because she didn't want other flyers to give up asking and to not ask. And I'll chalk that up, she said, to the delay and not their best showing. Thanks again for all the good you do for many of us, for so many of us. The flight home was painless. God bless, Laura Griffin. And I wrote back, and I really meant this from the bottom of my heart. You rock, Laura. And regarding the grumpy flight attendant, some of them should be serving pizza instead of flying. I used to want to wring some of their pretty little necks, pardon if it sounds sexist or gender biased or whatever, when I would hear them say mindless things. And that's exactly what it is. It's being mindless in the moment instead of extending themselves for the purpose of others. But you got this. would you like to be a guest on my weekly show next Tuesday? You would be such an inspiration to others. And here she is. So I'm going to ask Laura to join us right now. She did. We had a couple of times I put her off once, and then last week was Halloween, and she had an engagement. So I'm going to ask her to come on now, and we're going to talk about Laura's experience doing this. And I'm just so grateful for you thanking you. Like Dieter, you're in the Eastern time zone, so it's time for you probably to call it quits for the day. So thanks for taking time out, Laura, and spending it with us here for just a few minutes. Any thoughts as you read through that? Do you remember when we had that conversation?
I do remember it, and I can almost feel those feelings again.
Yeah,
I'm happy that they went away, but what I was feeling at the time and trying to explain in that message, I think you got it.
Yeah, yeah. It's such a. I just can't tell you how grateful I am for you coming on here, because it is such an important thing to share with people that you do this hard work and come up with some skills and strategies and techniques, and then you get to the day before the flight and it just seems to kind of fall apart, all that. So that it sounds like that's what you were going through,
Right.
And it is. I tell people often it is more like an allergy, and not like the flu, where the closer you get to the event, the day or whatever, the more it kind of descends upon you. Whereas the flu, you get it and then you get over it. This is just kind of like, if you had hay fever, just running out through the grass or something out there. So anyway. So before the flight, how would you describe the level of anxiety you had? We can see some of that in what you wrote there.
Right.
What's it like?
Well, probably at this time, it never went past maybe 7.
Okay.
But I took your class before my previous flight, which was in February.
Uh-huh.
And that's the flight where on the way home, I said something clicked, something major clicked. And I felt like I was done with it. I was over the fear. And I know from everything I've studied that that's not necessarily how it goes, but that was my best flight. And then I had some time in between, and
Sure.
then it started again beforehand. But it never reached a full like blown panic. I just needed some extra words of encouragement on top of all the in your class.
Yeah.
And on the Facebook page.
I really want to commend you because that is it. And what I want to commend is the courage to come on here and talk to other people, because I love it when I get Ron, really helped me, and you're the greatest and all that. But that doesn't help people get over it, right? What helps them get over it is to hear from people like you, where you have the real life experience that you do it, you have a good experience. And it goes away for a while, or you don't fly for a while, and then you come back, and then it kind of resets in there. And
Right.
that points out, one, how important it is to find some kind of a process for yourself that you can maybe 2 to 3 weeks before, or a week, or whatever it is for individuals, however much time you need to kind of get back and refresh yourself. And the best thing is that I think what I see in people like that is, once you get onto the flight or at the airport or board or whatever, you're going to have some anxiety. And as you said, the best part is you took care of yourself so that the anxiety wasn't at a 10.
Right.
Because if you're at a 10, you got no place to go, and you got no wiggle room, and you go right into panic or overload or whatever. But you had done the work, and you kept yourself out of that. And then when you got in there, it sounded like, despite that inconsiderate flight attendant, or both of them, whatever, it sounds like you were able to really, because that would be a cause for a lot of people to lose it. And
right.
I've had
You want everything to
me,
be smooth. Yeah.
Yeah. And just as a matter of explanation, you didn't tell me until afterwards, but what apparently there was the triggering event was they needed to move people around on the flight. Is that true?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
And you were, and was it a 747?
It was.
Holy, that's a big airplane. Was it full, or was it?
No, it was pretty empty, actually.
There you go. And
Okay.
And that's the key, because when we don't typically do that on big airplanes. And you mentioned that had happened before to you on a smaller airplane. And the reason is, when you have a smaller airplane, if you can imagine, a teeter-totter, if you've got 100 people spread out all over the teeter-totter, if one gets off on one end, it doesn't shift it out of balance very much. But if you only got 2 people and one gets off one of the ends of the teeter-totter, now the center of gravity shifts. And that's why they do that, because if it's only on big airplanes when we have a very, very light load on the thing, and I, having been there years ago, I would walk back and talk to people, because sometimes they become really unsettled. They say, "Are you kidding me? If I'm in this seat and I move to that seat, that makes a difference." And then they think how fragile it is. But we could probably fly and nobody would ever know the difference. But because as we got better and better and more competent at analyzing the center of gravity and all that, which we do with computers and stuff now, we became aware that there could be differences in that. And so that's why we do it, because we always err on the side of the caution. So anyway, so that was enough to just say, oh my God.
Now what? Yeah.
Now what? If they can't get their load straight, now what? What could we go to grow? And then I imagine, was the flight delayed at all, or
it was delayed beforehand, and then once we did get on it, because it was empty, they started shifting people around, and they were asking for volunteers to move from the front to the back, and
yeah, right. And it doesn't sound very precise when they start moving people like that.
Exactly. Yeah.
It's kind of funny. Yeah. Yeah. So when you went through this process, were you able to connect to anything that you had learned or read about that, or did you? What kind of experience was it? Yeah. How did you calm yourself? I think that's.
Yeah, I learned a lot. And I think that's what helps it not get to a 10. All of the tools that I learned. The one thing I love I think you called it airport yoga.
Yeah,
and once we were delayed, I just didn't want to sit there with my own thoughts. Yeah. So, we had plenty of space. We walked a little bit. I did some of the squeezing muscle tension things that just get rid of some of the adrenaline that had kicked up a little bit. And that helped.
And that's literally what you're doing, because what causes you to notice is cortisol, which is designed for a short-term burst of energy to get you away from a tiger who's trying to eat you in ancient times. And if you just sit there, that is what makes you feel so really dreadful, is because it's just building up in all of your tissues, and there's no place to go. So that's why, and this wasn't, any wisdom on my part. I just talked to people and they said it helps if and move around. And I know for myself that when I exercise, I feel better no matter what I've been doing, and so that was
so that helped with the delay. Then once I was on there and could get settled, I listened to the harmonizer. That works. That's great for me. Okay. And I think I always used to say, you can't really practice your fear of flying like you can, a fear of a spider or something, but the harmonizer has helped so much because of the sounds. I think all the sounds are so new and so different every time that listening to that exposure to it makes that so much easier when you get on the plane and you hear all the clicking and all the people and all, the dinging. And so I love that part of it. That helped me once I was on the plane.
Well, thanks. And you're not the first one to say that, but that, and again, I wish that was my wisdom, but the fellow that helped me script that whole thing, he just said, let's just put a lot of sound effects in there. And I was the one, I just recorded a whole bunch of different things. So you'll hear some things in there that you wouldn't normally hear, but they're designed just so you'll hear something other than the other sights, sounds, and sensations that scare the hell out of you,
And it becomes familiar.
And it becomes
I started doing it like a month beforehand. I listened to it every night before I went to bed.
Let's see. What was the, this, I hope this doesn't sound too dumb, but somebody, when I was doing some counseling one time in my life, they said, what's good to get a review to summarize your day is, what was the high point of your day and what was the low point? And I thought, well, geez, I don't know if I have a high point, but he says, it might have been, you had an extra glass of milk or something. He said everybody has a high point and everybody has a low point. It doesn't mean that you died at the low point or somebody else died. It doesn't mean you won the lottery. He just said it helps you realize and that every day has something that you like better than others. So I'll ask you, was there a high point throughout that flight or that experience that you could, put your hands on?
Probably the high point is when it's over and you can say, I did it.
But
truly, while I was flying and going and saying, like, I'm handling this, I'm not freaking out. I'm staying as calm as I can stay, and it's working for me. But when it's over, that's the best.
Are you, just out of curiosity, are you one of those people, as soon as either you sense that you're in the descent towards the final destination or the pilot announces, hey, we're going to be landing in 30 minutes, something, do you notice a relief at that point in time?
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's the funniest thing. I've talked to people over the 36 years, and everyone will tell me most people will say they could fly the rest of the flight upside down. And it would bother me at that point because I know it's almost
You're
over.
almost done. I know, but it was so much easier, so I handled it, but.
Yeah, and we've kind of talked on it, so it might be obvious to everybody out there. But what would you say was the low point of the flight? What was the hardest thing to cope with?
Probably one of the things was I never in a million thought I would ask to meet the pilot. I never thought I'd text you.
Yeah,
and I did, and you responded, and it helped me. And
okay.
through so many of the shows and like the Facebook pages, people seem to really get a lot of comfort out of meeting the pilot. So I got the nerve. And I even said to my husband, I might ask to, I'm like, get over here. I might ask to meet the pilot. And he's like, okay. And we switched sides. And she's like, you can't go in there.
Yeah. Oh,
so
yeah.
That was disappointing and almost embarrassing. Like, of course I can't go in there. Why was I even going to try that? You beat yourself up a little bit. I shouldn't have done it, but.
Yeah, I got it. And so I hope that, for as long as you need to or whatever, I hope it doesn't discourage you. And bless your heart, you implied, I didn't want to write this in the Facebook group or anything because I didn't want to discourage people. I'm glad you did, because I think it helps people manage their expectations. Because I have people from time to time say, geez, I had this one flight attendant and I don't know what, she was having a bad day or whatever, but much the same as what you did. So I hope you and everybody out there will not get discouraged by that and keep doing it, because it is far more likely that you'll get a positive response from people. And I mean, when you said, they had some kind of a mechanical delay or something, to go, I'm guessing that, and I'm not justifying what she did or what they did, but explaining it, hopefully, that, everybody has limits and all that. But I'm glad that you had, because you were in pretty good shape. You sound like you were doing some really good self-monitoring at that point. Yeah. And when people can monitor their own state of mind at that point, that's the best I could ever hope for somebody. Because the temptation is just to have a meltdown right there. And some people actually leave the airplane because of that.
Oh, I have years ago. I walked away before getting on.
Yeah. I had one other thing here. Do you notice anything else? I wanted to ask you, what kind of work do you do? I mean, you don't have to be really specific, but what do you do for outside the house?
Yeah, it's my husband's self-employed as a manufacturer's rep for electronics.
Okay.
And once I raised my kids, I started helping him in the business. So I would say, I don't think they call them secretaries anymore, but I do a lot of that kind of stuff.
But it's when you're in an entrepreneurial venture, you're never a secretary. You're like. Yeah. I mean, you may have administrative duties, but you're troubleshooting and you're problem solving. And to me, the thing I want to point out is you do a lot of analyzing and stuff, and probably troubleshooting with your husband and customer service and all that. And to me, it goes with what I found. you definitely seem brighter than the average bulb, and and I find that in all the people I work with who are afraid to fly, you have a higher than average intelligence, and in addition to that, you have a strong analytical capability, and that's what makes all the what ifs when you run into adverse things, is
Mhm.
your mind just won't let go, especially if you don't know much about it, like flying. So I think it's harder in many ways for people like you to shift that balance of power and stuff like that,
Yeah.
because you are so thoughtful and so mindful. And I
Well, I
just want to,
do. I also want to say to that point, I think that's where I really got a lot of help from the Facebook group because
yeah,
and I don't know if everybody's like me, but I feel that I want to just get over it. I just want to be able to fly. Why does it have to be hard for me? Why do I
yeah,
do this? But when I'm talking to someone in the Facebook group, I'm saying, give yourself some grace. It's okay that you have this fear. And I'm like, why can't I do that for myself? So I think I'm learning to
yeah,
give
yeah.
myself some grace.
And that's what came across to me in the email or the text that you sent me, was
Yeah,
I just saw you literally taking care of yourself, you know,
right.
and when I write back, like, what would I think of a little child and all that, there's a part of me that says, holy cow, are you really writing that crap to that person? But it really
I
is.
like that. Yeah.
That's what somebody did for me once, and I found that one of the unique things about being human is you not only have an experience, no matter what it is, watching TV or whatever, but we also have the capability to step back and watch ourselves having that experience,
Right.
and that can work for us and against us, because you can see yourself melting down and throw in the towel, or you could also use it to kind of detach. And that's what I found in my own life, the ability to detach from the present moment somewhat. And that's why I say, somebody shared with me, they said, when you have adverse things happen in your life, it's like you become the feelings that you're having, but you're really still so much more capable of
Yeah.
of being outside of that, right? Or you're not just your feelings, you're just having
Right.
feelings, and they will pass. But it's really hard when you're in the heat of battle to think, okay, this is going to pass in a minute, an hour, a day, a week, or whatever, because because it's so present to us. So I just got that from reading your thing, and I just thought, wow, you really did step
Right.
back and say, come on, take care of myself. And you
Yeah.
did that. So I would have just nothing but praise for you. It's just incredible what you did there. And you've given, I hope, my goal to have you on here was because I think you really will inspire other people to
That's
listen to
why
you.
I wanted to do it.
Yeah, I know. And
Hopefully
thank
I
you.
could help someone.
Yeah, and thanks, because I know you had some reservations initially, and
Yeah.
I want to. And that, to me, that's just more of the courage that I see you displaying now when you fly and all that. So thanks for doing that. And it might sound corny, but any words that you would have for people out there who think, I can't do this, or yeah, she didn't have it as bad as I did. That's a typical thing that comes up.
Right. And I get that. I do think that when you're going through something like this
Yeah,
and nobody else around you in your family, your friends feel it, like, why can't you just get on the plane?
yeah,
You feel very alone. And
yeah,
this, again, the Facebook group, the classes, the things that where I learned so much about why I feel this way and nipping it, not in the bud, like not letting it start, but getting a grip on it
yeah,
before you reach that 10. That is so important because I've had it where I go to the 10 and I don't want to get on the flight.
yeah.
So, yeah, that's
Well,
my
you're
advice. Work at
you're
getting it
thanks, Lord, because
down.
you really do manifest that. And do you have any flights coming up in the future, just out of curiosity?
We're just talking about planning one. It would be another probably shorter flight to Florida. Some friends have a place there and invited us. So I want to keep it going. I don't want it to
Yeah.
go, I usually do fly every couple years, but I want to do it at least once or twice a year to stay on top of it because I feel like the exposure is key.
Yeah.
The
And
flight home is always better than the flight there.
Oh, I'm so glad you said that, because when I fly with people, when I have the opportunity, like we did a couple weeks ago, going over to Burbank and flying with a group of people to Sacramento and back, they it's hard for them to accept when I tell them that no matter how much anxiety you have getting on the flight to take off and fly to Sacramento, you won't believe when you get there how it won't even be an issue to get on the plane coming back. It's it's the power of repeating it, I think, right away,
Right.
and the recency of the positive experience rather than the latency of a negative experience that you
Exactly.
carry to that. So thanks for saying that, because I really do. I tell people, and because another thing that people are worried about is not only does it ruin your vacation if you should get on the airplane down there, but so many people, if they don't do anything about it, it ruins the time on the ground there, because now they're agonizing over the flight back and
Exactly.
the
Yeah.
double win. So anyway,
I
so
recognize that it's better. Yeah. The
yeah,
way back.
so thanks so much, Laura, for
Thank you
coming on.
guys, all of you
Yeah.
guys,
Thanks.
flight crew, the class. I
Yeah.
mean, I did the whole thing and it is so worth it. Give yourself that gift if you can.
Yeah.
It's been
And
amazing.
And I'm really, it's been a long time. I've been doing this for 36 years, and I've always wanted to get to the point where the emphasis that I wanted to place on people is doing something on a regular basis. And so now we have the monthly coaching webinars that we're doing. And to me, that is the real key to stay connected, especially when you're not flying, and to
Right.
connect with other people and stuff. So I'm going to talk about the next one coming up here in just a little bit. So thank you so much for coming on. You're welcome to stay on and listen if you want, or just say sayonara and go quit for the day. But thanks for staying up and doing this for us. I really
I
appreciate
appreciate you.
it. Thanks so much, Laura. I
All right.
really appreciate it. Okay,
All right. Take
so
care.
have a great evening. Thanks a
You
lot.
too.
Bye bye. Okay, so let me. I want to come on now and let's see if I share again, and I want to. Oops, I want to show my slides.
While you are
While I'm
looking
fuddling
for your
around with
presentation,
slides. Okay.
I'm just gonna say thank you to you, Gilbert. That's awesome. Ron will reach out to you and we'll schedule you for some upcoming show as a guest. I'm really looking forward to hearing from you. And also, I remember you were actually, I think, live on our show from Copenhagen, which probably would have been like 3:30 or 4 a.m. So, yeah, we'll definitely have you on, and I agree, it's a story that should be told.
Okay.
Ron, how's your share going?
Okay, good. I just wanted to get back to, oops. Okay,
All right.
just want to
Yep.
highlight the fact that we got another our current November live monthly group coaching webinar coming up, and Dieter's encouragement said, we just need to talk more about anxiety and overcoming that. So that's what the theme is going to be, and we so you're going to see some upcoming monthly webinars talk about overcoming flight anxiety, but this one here we're gonna touch on I've tried everything and nothing works. That is such a common response for human beings when they're trying to make a behavioral change that involves changing the way they think about something. And so we're going to talk about that. We're going to try to highlight that and give you some tips and some strategies for what do you do when you get up against a block or you plateau and you think that you've tried everything. Hopefully we'll have a bunch of people. We got a bunch of people signed up, and hopefully they'll show up and share with us if they've got any successes in that area. And Dieter and I will be trying to pass along some things that we can do. Let's see. Anything else? Any other questions, Dieter, that have come in or comments?
Great comment from Viviana. She said, Captain Ron, love your program. Got to go to a trip to Germany. Really enjoyed it. Even with the transatlantic flight. Thank you again.
Okay, cool. Because
So,
that's a big one for most people. You're flying over water, no matter how well you all do, when it's obvious you got a place that's got dirt underneath you, it really raises the stakes when you think about being over water and where would you land if something were to happen that would cause you to do that. And one of the things in the 201 course, one of the things that we do in the webinars is we talk oftentimes about why flying over water and over large spans of land, for that matter, that don't have suitable alternate airfields every hour or so, why that's how you can do that with an airplane. And even as you're listening to me, you know that you didn't hear out of the 105,000 flights today and yesterday and the day before that anybody landed in the Pacific or the Atlantic Ocean. So you know that we're doing something so that people don't have to worry about that. But
yet all of them had alternate airports in their flights.
Exactly. And they had special rules and special enhancements that we observe for operating the equipment and all that. So anyway, so again, last pitch. If you don't know what else to do, consider just trying one monthly coaching webinar and see what it's like. And come on, you'll get one-to-one attention. And I used to say, I've been in a lot of group therapy sessions myself, and there was a saying that we had: even if you don't get what you thought you needed, or what you wanted, you get what you needed by virtue of other people talking about issues that often mirror those that you have. So again,
and we also give you the opportunity to actually beforehand submit a question as well. So it is really we keep the webinar size relatively small, and we do that so that we can actually connect with you in there. I mean, really, that's really your time. And we have webinars where there's a lot more people, like 50 to 100 people. That's not one of them. This is really a space that's safe and a nurturing environment where we're encouraging you to go deep with us. And I think especially this topic, I've tried everything and nothing has worked. I mean, the deflation, even in that statement, and we really wanna go in there because that in and of itself can become such a loud voice in your brain, in your mind.
So join us and send us your questions, because it is interactive. We do value your input. It's a lot better than if Dieter and I just have to come up with the content. And we've been stimulating more participation, and so please, whatever you're doing, consider joining us for one of the webinars. Thanks to anybody who may be new, who joined us as a result of one of the free webinars that we did over the last month. There'll be more of those as well. And anyone out there is encouraged to come on and listen to that. You never know where wisdom is going to come from. And so often it comes from people in the group. So anyway, thanks. And thanks again to Dieter. And we really appreciate all of you. I want to thank Laura again for the courage to come on and share her story. And for all of you, we hope you'll keep coming back to the next episode of Fearless Flight Live. We'll see you again next week. Thanks, everybody, and have a great week. Bye-bye.